Hey, if you checked out the website, this is the Trophy Ridge Planer board, and I'm going to do a little bit of an instructional video. I want to show you a little bit about the boards. This is the bigger board. This is a 5.5 by 10.5, and I also have a smaller board, which is a 4.5 by 9. Today we're going to fish the bigger boards because I'm fishing a little bit bigger crankbait, and I'll show you the action, but I will put out one of the shorter boards so you can see. I'll be fishing crankbaits for the reason of not having shad for this time of year. And we're at Philpott. This is an afternoon. The setting here is great to do this video, but as you're watching the boards at work, think about the crankbait matching any shad that you would fish for striper, even though we'll be using Rapalas. I actually be using one number 7 and one number 6. All right. The first thing you want to do, when I'm fishing the boards, as with any board, you want to have a bead at the top. See if we can get that on film, and then a barrel swivel. And I like to have a 36 to 48 inch leader. And then I use snaps on crankbaits. It's easy to change. I don't think it affects any of the action of the lure. And this system has worked out good for me. If you were fishing live bait, you would have your favorite type hook instead of the snap. All right, the first thing I like to do is, and I use line counter reels so I can be more accurate, is I like to get the speed of the boat anywhere from 3 to 4.5 as I'm getting them out. It's faster, and I don't have to waste so much time at the speed that I would like to troll at. So I'm gonna run the speed up to 4 so we can get the boards out in a quicker mode. What I like to do is let out 30 feet, and this varies. I have fished as much as 40 feet. But with crankbaits and shiners, in most instances, you would use 30 to 40 feet. And then I like for the line to get tight as the boat is moving forward, and that just takes a minute. And we're ready to put the board on. Now, you have port and you have starboard, and you can always tell which side it needs to go on because the rod will be to the front. After you do this several times, it becomes second nature, and you can look at the front of the board and tell where it needs to go on which side of the boat. All right, I open the swivel in the back, which is a stainless steel barrel swivel with a snap, and I like to use the big loop connectors because it's easier to get on the line. Hook it, rotate the board around to the front, and then offshore release the top. And I do use offshore releases. This is an OR10 model number. Some of the best releases on the market. I just want to take the rod and make sure that the board stands straight upright. And my boards are great to stand. There's nothing else. You'll never have to mess with this board again as far as getting it upright. Now, strictly up to you how you let your line out. I usually use this pull and tug method. Some guys use the clicker and just let the force of the boat take the board out. I don't know, I guess one's just as fast as the other, but we'll pull and tug this one out to 100. You can do 125, you can do 150. I know when I come here at Philpott and fish in the spring, I sometimes go out 150 feet from the boat. Like Trophy Ridge Planer boards, it don't make any difference how far you go out from the boat. They're still going to turn right at 90 degrees to the back of the boat when the water catches up to it. All right, so you've got your first one. You want to put it in the back rod holder because this is going to be your furthest away from the boat board. Remember that. So we got 130. We'll stop it at 130. Now I like to slow the boat down to 2.5. And what that is, that's going to put a speed of about 0.7 to 0.9 up to a mile an hour, which for me is perfect for trolling crankbaits. All right, now we're gonna, what's notorious in use with planer boards is to stair step or put another board out. This is a Rapala Shad Rap. This is a number 7. The first one we put out was a number 6. It'll dive a little shallower than the 7 since we're closer to the bank, less chance of getting hung up. The second one is set up just like the first one, 36 to 48 inch leader, and make sure your line counter's back at 0, and take out another 30 feet. You could do 15, you could do 40. I really don't advise doing anything over 40, even if you were fishing live bait. And we'll get this out to 30. Lock it down, let it gain your line, and now you're going at that slow speed. It'll take it just a minute. And you can see, she'll put the video on that board. It's at its max distance out, and it has a really, really nice turn in the board. All right, so we get board number 2, put it on just like we did board number 1 with the swivel, hook it, turn the front to the front of the boat, the rod, hook your OR10 offshore, and let it rip. Now, I have rod holders all over this boat, and I dare to say 97% of all striper fishermen don't. Like I said earlier, the back one furthest from the boat you want in the back rod holder, because this will be a stair step. And then where I went out to 131 with the farthest away from the boat board, this one will be shallower. A very popular technique in striper fishing. We'll stop it at that, lock it down. That should be right at 100. You have to wait for your slack line to catch up. Which takes forever at this speed. We'll speed it up a little bit. Need to be fishing those crankbaits a little bit faster anyway. And you'll see the board start to turn. I'm gonna let out a little more line. Set it in the rod holder, and the force of the boat moving forward will pull the board back over to match the other one. Now, this is an important part. This is part of the stair step process. When this is done right, this board that we just let out will be just ahead of the board in the back. And what that does with stripers or walleyes or whatever you're catching, it's 2 plugs in the water, one leading the other at a distance apart. I'm gonna slow her down to 2.5 on the iPilot. And you can see the pretty stair step. Now, I very, very, very rarely, if ever, fish more than 2 boards on one side of the boat. I sell to guys all the time that are fishing 4, but all you have to do if you had another rod holder was duplicate the first 2 steps but less line, and it creates a stair step. And you could do that with 4 boards. Now, if you go to the other side of the boat, you can see I've got 2 rod holders mounted on this side just like I do the other side. I will gladly put out 2 more boards on this side of the boat. And just for video purposes, and to show you the difference in the port versus the starboard, we'll take this one out. And I'll put a small board on this so you can see the small board. The first 2 we put out was a 5.5 by 10.5, and this one I put out will be a 4 by 9.5. Just like with the other ones, I'm gonna let out 30 feet. I think this one has a number 4 Shad Rap on it. Alright, you're going to do it just like we did the other ones. Match the front of the board, the rod, with the front of the boat. And that'll be your port and starboard sides. Okay. All right. We'll get it hooked on the OR10 just like we did the other ones. And this is the small board. And these boards pull as good as the bigger boards. The reason I went with two different size boards, there's a lot of instances where you might have alewives or shad that you catch that morning for stripers that's in the 3 to 6 inch bracket, and then you might have a good day where you catch them in the 6 to 9 inch bracket. So these smaller boards will pull bait really well up to 6 inches, and then the bigger boards will pull all of them. You know, sometimes you might have gizzard shad you're fishing in November or December for big stripers that's in the 9, 10, 11 inch bracket, and they pull the big boards really well. And we'll just lock this down, put it in that back rod holder, and it will work its way out. Now you can see on this video how easy white is to see. You know, if I wanted to have painted and have an orange or green planer board like the other people, I would have painted and done it. I think the white is attractive. I think it's natural to fish. And I despise paint chips laying all over the boat. As they get pulled through the water, they lose that paint look and what have you. But you can see how easy these are on either the port or starboard side to see. And one thing I wanted to bring up is planer board fishing with downriggers. I do it all the time. I got my Cannon downriggers. Everybody don't set a boat up like I do, but you know, if I wanted to fish a downrigger on this side of the boat with two planers out, it's a simple task. That way you're covering all depths of the water column from the bank. All right. If you have any questions, like on the website, you can contact me. Phone, email, I'll get back to you. Thanks.